Hi, I'm Rosco, and welcome to EV Marketplace on a Wednesday night. Your place for EV deals, data, and discovery. And if it's Wednesday at 6:30, it's got to be EV night. And well, if you're watching live on YouTube, thanks for joining us. If you're watching live on Facebook, good to have you. If you're watching live, and Joseph's joined us, so thanks very much. If you're watching later on and catch up, like a great night ahead of us tonight. Doing things about face tonight. That's back the front. We've got our guest this evening in the first half of the show. He's got another commitment at 7 o'clock, so we'll have him on just in a couple of moments. Of course, it's Riz Acktar, who's most of you may know, but founder of Carloop, columnist for The Driven, president of AVA in Victoria, multi-committed EV owner. He's driven just about everything, and I think he's number one ticket holder in the Chairman's Lounge. Still at Bonza, not worth anything at the moment, but anyway, you've probably seen him later on this tonight, normally on the Ludicrous feed, but we've managed to snag him tonight. So he'll be joining us in just a few moments to talk about this crazy EV market that's going on at the moment. Let's lead him in with a suitable intro. Hey, Riz, thanks for joining me.
Hey, good to be on, Roscoe. There's as you said in your intro, the market's going crazy. Where do we actually sit? I think we're gonna have a good couple of minutes talking about this.
I know I've got you till 7, so we could go for hours. We've been talking before, and I've been looking forward to this for a long time. But what a time to be talking right now! It's just unbelievable. But hey, go back a couple of years. Well, what was your first aha moment? You've been around a lot longer than I have. You've been more committed than I have. You've been an owner for a lot longer than I have. What got you into this whole thing?
Oh, a long time ago. I think I did my very first electric car I drove was the Mitsubishi Maiev
Yeah.
when I was doing an internship at Bosch in Clayton, and they got one, and it was just sitting in the front if anyone wanted to go and
Yeah.
take it for a quick spin, and I did because nobody else would touch it. So, quick drive around the big Bosch campus in Clayton for those of you that know down here in Melbourne. And I was like, yeah, this is something pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big step up than what I was driving back then, a 1990 Ford Laser
Yeah.
that was like nearly 20 years old. So that was one big step up. But then, just kept an eye out on the market as sort of Tesla came about, and then drove the Model S
Yeah.
in 2017 as a bit of a test drive, and then didn't think much about it, and
Yeah.
then accidentally ended up with a Model 3 sort of in late 2020. And yeah, never looked back. And I think what was sort of the aha moment was, this car as a car enthusiast, not even an
Yeah.
EV fan second, but as a car enthusiast, this car had everything. It had the technology, it had the speed, it had the smoothness, it had the instant acceleration, and all the things that we're used to. That's the sort of stuff that this thing had. And
Yeah.
then I was tinkering away with some data and a couple of other things, and I realized that how the future really is going to be electric. And
Yeah.
then it was sort of early days of what was already developing quite rapidly, but behind the scenes in China with the likes of BYD, and I accidentally ended up with an electric car. I accidentally became a journalist. I accidentally am on the show with you. So after many, many accidents, it's as it turns out that the I started to cover BYD on the Driven probably in
Yeah.
2022, just after there was an announcement. But we were covering what they were doing overseas in
Yeah.
terms of in the China market a bit before that, and sort of there was more to the substance, more to it than what a lot of people were paying attention to. And
Yeah.
look at them now, like it's pretty much a household name.
It's unbelievable.
It's crazy, right? And today, actually, it's an interesting day. Today, they delivered their 100,000th new energy vehicle in
Unbelievable.
Australia.
Unbelievable, isn't it? And such a short space of time. I think we test drove one in 2022 as well, something like an
Yeah,
Atto. There was an Atto 3, a Polestar 2, BYD. There was, that's all they had was one model at that stage.
yeah.
And Carloop, tell us a bit about Carloop, your heart, your business. Yeah.
Yeah, so I left full-time engineering work about 10 years ago now, and I wanted to get back into cars and tinker
Yeah,
away with some things. And through that journey, a lot of the things that you're sort of involved with and helping friends and people
yeah,
buy and get not get ripped off when they're buying a car, but at the
yeah,
same time help them sell
mm,
as well. So I started doing a little bit of that, and then like I said, I accidentally ended up with an EV and
yeah,
was doing a bit of stuff around data and realized that hey, Teslas were not reporting their sales, and a lot of the data that I was getting, we could see where Teslas were being registered, what the EV market was
yeah,
like back in 6 7 years ago, and sort of developed on that as there was more. The governments and others wanted to know more about the
mm,
EV industry and they wanted data behind it. If we didn't have it, we built data sets, and now given the size of our team, which is
mm,
still relatively small, we serve customers in Australia at government level,
yeah.
private companies. Internationally, we've seen a whole lot of
That's
interest
great.
in the last 12 to 18
Yeah,
months. We now have customers in New Zealand, China, and Europe.
that's
So
fantastic. Yeah,
it's from they have one shared goal. They
yeah,
want to be part of this EV transition. And you're in a really interesting and exciting space as well, Roscoe, because
yeah.
the used EV market
Thank you.
is now finally
Yeah.
evolving, and I think there's no real turning back.
No, exactly. And we've been talking about it and following it for a couple of years now, and it's gradually been growing. And yeah, and finally, again, this catalyst like this, if anything, even if it's just a blip, and we'll talk about it a bit more about how you see this as whether it is a blip on the radio or a radar, or whether it is actual tipping or turning point. Either way, the awareness that's been raised just in the last month is enough for the to bank for 3 to 6 months at least for both new and used. So I've taken a lot of heart from that because yeah, again, it's not so. I don't mind if it continues on this trend upwards, which we can debate all afternoon, evening, whether it does or not, or whether it's just a blip. But yeah, the awareness that we've got now is encouraging for yourself, and all the time that you've put in as well, as well. And finally,
Oh,
you get years like this where
I think things are we've somewhat reached
yeah,
the tipping point, but it's interesting because this has happened before
yeah,
in a different market, and at that time nobody really paid any attention to it,
yeah,
and that was in the UK
yeah,
when during COVID they had
yeah,
this huge shortage of truck drivers that weren't able to deliver fuel
yeah,
to the servos, and you had these huge queues. And even 3 4 years ago, there were more options in Europe,
yeah,
but they were still limited with the number of options. But
yeah,
that pushed people across, saying, "Well, why are we lining up to get fuel when
yeah,
we have other options?" And we are very fortunate here in Australia, where a lot of the Chinese EV brands sort of saw us as a good market to
yeah,
operate in due to our tariffs and openness to try new
yeah,
things. And now a lot BYD was here way before they were in Europe.
yeah, yeah,
So and I think and a lot of other brands like Zeekr is in some parts of Europe, but in the UK market, they're about to land. Xpeng's just got in there. So
yeah,
we've got a very unique set of circumstances that have really helped get new EVs into people's
yeah,
hands. And now those EVs are the ones that are ending up on the used market.
yeah.
And there's been always been concern and questions, Roscoe, as you've seen
Mm.
over the years, change from how long will I
Yeah.
well, how long will it be before I need to replace the battery of the
Yeah,
car?
that yeah,
Will
number
it catch
number
on
one
fire
question.
and how frequently?
Yeah.
Two, where we are today, which is I don't like it's interesting, and you might have other insights, but
Mm.
battery health testing has become very, very common now,
Yeah,
and it's getting more and more sort of part of just
yeah,
part of a checklist of what needs to happen. Where it's not even. I'm feeling that a lot of used EV buyers that I'm talking to aren't even asking the question about battery health.
yeah.
They're just going straight in. So, are you seeing something similar?
Absolutely, and I think and look, Nathan Gore Brown's done a lot of work with Avalou, and I put it
Yeah,
down to him, and I've been a supporter of his work, but I was waiting and seeing because the retail take up wasn't as strong as I thought originally. It wasn't a must have. He talked to a lot of dealers, and from their perspective, it's be crazy not to take a trade or buy
Exactly.
an EV without doing a test and outlay $20,000, $30,000. So he's got a lot of them on board. Then it made sense for the auction houses to raise the awareness as well. If they were being auctioned sight unseen, like Pickles, who we're talking to and looking at data from, and their clearance rates, if they've got a certificate on every page, then again, it raises awareness and people can
Mm.
bid sight unseen. It's all online these days. You don't get to go and walk around the old warehouse anymore. And the battery health, that's 3/4 of the value of the car, right? So
Yeah.
absolutely. And finally now with this catalyst, again, one of many we'll talk about in future, again, with the awareness and the strong demand for used EVs has really pushed people towards getting battery tests and raised awareness there as well. So again, timing, I think in startups is everything. And this bit of timing that we've had in the last quarter, we might look back and go, yeah, this was a major turning point for the EV industry as a whole. But yeah. Let's go and just go back. We've opened a million cans of worms there, and I'll stuff them back in again until I'll just pull one more back out again because I want to look at this pricing. Again, you predicted this would be a bumper year. I think 15% in that preview at least. So we've topped that this month on new EVs. Used EVs I thought would follow behind, but yeah, this has really given it an impetus that we didn't expect. But then this crazy situation, and again, you predicted it, a price war for new EVs, and now we've got the situation where used EVs are going up in price. Did you ever anticipate anything like that? Mm.
Well, yeah, that great point, Roscoe. I mean, yeah, used EV market. It's as simply it's supply and demand
Yeah,
equation, right? Like we saw during COVID, new car prices were
yeah,
going up, so then used car prices went up.
yeah,
This is a little bit different where new EV prices are coming down because
yeah,
of the pure competition. Competition is one, and I think the other thing worth noting for viewers and listeners is
mm,
that um, majority of the EVs we're getting are coming from China, which
yeah,
they dominate in that
yeah,
that technological sort of shift that they have and the advantage
mm,
that they have. Same with manufacturing. Um, so the Chinese market is internal market is a little bit softer than what it was a couple of years
yeah,
ago. But the manufacturers need to, they make these huge investments in manufacturing
yeah.
plants. As a mechanical engineer from back in the day
Keep
running these plants, they have to run at
keep going.
70, 80, 90% production capacity. And if the local demand is low, that demand has to come from somewhere.
Yeah,
So if they want to sell volume, then they've got to price things right. If they've got them at low prices, if one brand does it, another one
mm,
has to do it to compete. So we're starting to see some really, really amazing prices in the new EV space.
yeah,
But at the same time, um, new EVs, I can't even remember what the stats are these days, but 3 times as many vehicles are sold on the used market from what
yeah,
I remember back in the day to a new car.
yeah.
So
It
majority of Australians,
Yeah, it's currently yeah, and it's about 2 million to 1 million.
2 million.
So
Okay.
yeah, it is. I know, and
And
it's a curious dynamic. Again, we may not see it again. This is here's a new Geely, yeah, EX5, which tremendous deal. No relationship with Geely, either of us that I'm aware of, but
mm,
just drive away 1.88% new financing, free EV charger, and 50 odd thousand, 55,000. What was it? 50,000. Um, drive away, and then at the moment, Tesla have still got a Model Y and a Model 3 for late 40s and early 50s. These cars were 10 grand less only a month only a month ago. So as you say, the fascinating thing is the small size of that used EV market. I've got some data later on, but
mm,
yeah, it's normally a 3,000, 3,500 car per month market out of 100 odd thousand used cars sold as well, more 200,000. So it's really a tiny 1.5%. So from my perspective, it didn't take much to swing the market with a small amount of demand back to a position where, yeah, the prices have just gone crazy. And I think they have gone a bit crazy. Maybe with petrol pricing coming down a bit, maybe some of these prices that people are asking now might come back a bit on the used side. What do you see?
well, things might settle a little bit like once you get out of the initial shock of
Yeah,
how quickly fuel prices have gone up.
yeah,
The other point, sort of worth noting, is that right now we're in a stage where I believe there's the fuel excise relief is on, so there's
Yeah.
about 30 odd cents a liter. That
Yeah.
is, the fuel is cheaper. Will the fuel drop to under
Yeah.
$2 with that 30 cent sort of discount?
Mm.
Because once that comes off, it'll jump back up to 2.30.
Yeah.
Is that the new norm that people are willing to accept? And
Yeah.
one thing is for sure, the fuel companies will be wanting to make sure that this stays high as long as it can.
Yeah.
Um, I feel that So you touched on it earlier. I was at the Melbourne Motor Show,
Mm.
and it's a general car show. It's not just the EV show,
Yeah.
and there were days and times when you couldn't really move in the Melbourne Exhibition Centre. That's
Yeah.
how many people are interested in the car space. About a dozen brands were there, car brands, and they basically have EVs and hybrids to showcase.
Mm. Yeah.
And those brands that had EVs, so BYD, Zeekr, GWM, MG, GAC, Geely were also, of course,
Yeah.
there. Those that had a good range of EVs, their stands were packed.
Yeah.
And I remember at one stage, the Zeekr stand was so packed where, people were queuing up outside the stand just to get inside a driver's seat of a Zeekr 7X. So and same with MG. MG's test drives were chockers because they were
Yeah.
doing test drives as well. And GAC, a relatively new brand, I was surprised to see the amount of interest that
Mm.
people don't really care whether the brand is new or not.
Yeah.
If it feels good once they get, bums in seats sell cars. Once they get into the car, even if it's a static display
Yeah.
and they haven't got a salesman breathing down their neck and they feel comfortable enough in it, they are quite happily they're happy to spend 30, 40, 50,
Yeah.
60 grand on something that may not have the brand affinity like some of the legacy brands, but makes them feel like this is great value. And that's what we're getting now
Yeah.
amongst new EVs. And used EVs market is also seeing that a bit of an uptick at the moment.
Mm.
20 I predict around 20% increase in prices
Yeah.
in the last 2 to 3 months. Roscoe, is that sort of what
Yeah,
you're seeing?
I'm seeing. I haven't seen some final numbers because they. It's hard to take March really as
Mm.
a as in and of itself. Yeah, some of the auction clearance rates I've seen from Pickles have been up 30%. Some of the other
Mm.
data from Dealerland has been closer to 10 to 15. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the sort of average out. But again, different markets between private dealer and auction house. Obviously, the auction houses were pretty low wholesale-ish rates anyway, so they had more scope to move up. Dealers probably had less scope to move and were probably priced pretty well. Yeah, interesting. The washout here and the different segments have looked like they've put out different results as well. So Hal's here. There's a few on board. Thanks for watching. And if you've got any questions for Riz, I've only got until 7 o'clock. So let me know if you've got any questions for Riz. But look, I'm just amazed, and I don't know. I didn't see this happening. We've run out of stock. I never envisaged that. Everyone said you picked a great time to be in this business, but like a lot of dealers, and the stock's just been cleaned out.
Yeah.
It's been 1 or 2 months sales within the very same month, and the market, albeit small and getting a lot of media, has really probably just cleaned itself out in the space of a month.
Well,
Um,
speaking on media, Roscoe, like I would say in the last probably 4 to 5 weeks, I've
mm,
probably done about 6 or 7 interviews with the
yeah,
major publications. And there's more coming, like
yeah,
because there's just so much interest in this space now. And I think it's good for general awareness. It's good
absolutely.
to talk about sort of the key benefits, and
Yeah,
the benefits exist in used EVs as much as they do in
yeah.
new EVs. So, you know, there's some cracker cars on the used EV market.
Mm.
Some of them you can't even buy on the new market anymore. I
Oh,
was talking to someone today. I'm currently test driving a Model 3 rear wheel drive
yeah,
long range,
exactly.
but you can't buy
Mm,
a Model 3 all wheel drive long range anymore.
mm,
So, there is options on used EV
mm.
market that might suit your needs that just don't exist on the new market at the moment. So, you
Absolutely.
know,
We've got one in Canberra at the moment, a long range there, Model
yeah.
3. Again, you can't buy it at the moment. some of the early Polestar 2s, again,
Yes.
tremendous value and still really, really good cars. And so, yeah, seeing those sorts of things. I think the MG4 or the original MG4 will be a favourite. Again, the pricing is very keen on the new MG4. But you've probably had a look at it. You've driven just about everything, but the old MG4 still holds a sweet spot for me in terms of style and being rear wheel drive.
It's a cracker of a car,
Yeah.
and just for context, I also saw the new rear wheel drive that MG announced. They no longer have the 51 kilowatt hour variant anymore.
Okay.
That was one of the most fun cars to
Yeah.
drive. Affordable rear wheel drive.
Yeah.
I think that car is going to be worth a little bit more than what it is today on the used market in the
Yeah.
next couple of months.
The great thing about Teslas, have you thought about selling your own Model 3 in this market?
Look, I think about it. I'm thinking about it more and more because, market is just the timing is interesting, but
Yeah.
I'm just not driving it. It's been sitting in sort of the car, in the garage for at least 6 weeks. I might have driven it for half an hour
We're
because
happy to
it
list it. Can I talk to you a lot later on about listing it?
talk to me afterwards.
I'm happy to get you. More than happy to list it for you and promote it. It sounds like a fine example of an early Model 3. So more than happy to put that out there. What else has just on some of the new models that have come out while we've still got you? What else has impressed you more recently amongst the pack?
Look, that MG4 Urban, as you said, the front wheel drive is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Geely is going to be. I haven't driven it personally, but I saw it at the motor show. Geely's got their EX2, they call it. It's China's best-selling electric car. That's coming sort of Q3.
Yeah.
But I was very impressed late last year to drive the JQ Amoda J5
Yeah.
EV. It's a bit of a long name, but that car at 37 grand or 36,990 drive away, it has really pushed that small SUV, electric SUV market to think about what they should be pricing their cars at.
Yeah.
And they've gone, gangbusters. I think they've got over 4,000 pre-orders and they've delivered about 1,300 cars. So, the timing, pricing, whole lot of other factors, but with 8-year warranty for private use and those sort of things, like that's the benchmark now. 37 grand is what we're paying. And then obviously you've got Geely for the last 18 months has really impressed me with the EX5 and they seem to be doing relatively well. But yeah, the options are just endless at the moment, Rosco.
I know. We've got a note there about someone. Yeah, every Facebook post, every time we get a comment, with this looking, we're going to get more and more valuable as consultants and advisors in this market, just being in this market. Before you go, I know you're off to China next week, Beijing. They call it the China International Auto Show, isn't it now? But that's starting next week, 24th.
On the 24th, yeah.
You're off to China. There's a few off to China. Stan's off to China from Kangaroo Island. He's off tonight. He's going to care of Zika, so he's off to China as well. Everyone's going to China at the moment, but we'll just finish on one note, almost 7 o'clock. So
that's right.
For those people, a bit more serious in terms of few people, I guess, seeing the decision now. Tesla's almost become the standard in service and charging networks and become a real commodity where I've seen on the used market. Easier to price up until now, it was easy to price, easy to compare. And again, a white Model 3 versus a white Model 3, the pricing slotted in quite nicely, but the service was there, the parts were there. There was some certainties about the market. Any advice for anybody that's sort of looking at some of these new brands? That's the big question mark. Yeah, it's a tough one about whether you choose a Tesla Model 3 at existing price or one of the existing brands like Polestar that you have been there already now, and BYD, or some of the newer ones, who are just coming into market with some of these new brands.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some brands that I guess have not gotten a good publicity in the mainstream media recently.
Yeah,
particularly around
XP excluded. Yeah,
that's right. Particularly around parts and the rest of it.
Yeah,
but I think the industry, like when I talk to the CEOs and executives of a lot of these companies locally here in Australia, like we're getting reassurances now that there'll be parts available, parts
Yep.
supply. The dealers they're onboarding, they don't want to be caught in the middle of
No.
something where there's no parts. So
No.
they're being more stricter as well with OEMs to say you
Yeah.
must have. So things are improving. Now, I do say, like, there's some brands, if you're looking for something affordable, there's some
Mm.
brands that are just really easy to recommend. For
Yeah.
example, MG is very easy to recommend because
Yeah.
they've got, you know, close to or over 100 dealers. The pricing of their cars and the quality and sort of the 10-year warranty they're offering, it's a
Exactly. Yeah.
no-brainer. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, recommending an iPhone or something, or like a Google phone to somebody. It's just a
Exactly. Yeah.
no-brainer. Then you've got Geely is also done quite a lot of work in terms of their setting up parts warehouse very
Yeah.
early, and Geely is so huge they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Zeekr, their sub brand, or obviously operating separately here, they announced at the Melbourne Motor Show that they'll have. They've invested in a parts warehouse in
Yeah.
Melbourne as well, so they've got parts available locally. Pretty much, it's going to be that's what every new
Yeah.
brand has to have and has to do. GAC announced
Yeah.
the same thing over at the Melbourne Motor Show. So just as long as they're big enough brands,
Yeah.
like GAC sells 2 million cars in China, so
Yeah.
like they
Exactly.
know
Yeah.
what they're
Yeah.
doing. If you're going with one of those brands, they're
Yeah.
here for the long term.
Yeah.
Because it's not cheap to set up operation here. We're talking tens of millions of dollars for each one of these
Yeah.
brands. Some brands that come under with a distributor, you might have to sort of do your research and
Yeah.
figure things out. But the larger ones, the ones that you see that are in the top 10 sales,
Yeah.
it's pretty easy to read. They've got their stuff sorted.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, our sympathies to anyone that's had a specific problem. We're not saying there's not existing small problems. Every dealer has had them, every manufacturer, every model. So there are always little things, and which could turn to big things. But yeah, on the whole, I guess that it is interesting how these evolve. That's one of the decisions. It's not whether it's going to be an EV now; it's which brand, whether it's an established one like Tesla now,
Yeah.
and you could call BYD and Tesla established now versus one of the newer ones. So I really appreciate that. And hey, have a great time in China. I would love to hear what's going on. There's so much going on. And every time you come back, and we haven't even touched on the European brands yet. I mean, there's fight back amongst the Europeans at the moment, which we haven't seen the last of them. And not discounting Toyota and Mazda that get back in the mix either in the next couple of years at all. I'm excited by what they've done more recently. Maybe Honda, but yeah, Toyota overseas from what I've seen in the US and Mazda here. I'm not counting them out, and I'm certainly not counting out the European brands either. So,
Thanks for having me on, Roscoe. Good to be on. And all the best with the rest of your live stream.
lovely. Thanks for joining me, Riz. All right, all the best. Thanks a lot.
Good night.
That was Riz Acktar. Thanks for joining us, Riz. He's off to another meeting now. Fascinating to get his insights because he's right on the pulse from just about every aspect of the industry. And you've seen him in the Driven, you've seen him on Ludicrous Feed, and yeah, he's off to China again, and so much happening over there. Can't wait to see what happens when he gets back again. Put the word out. If you know anyone who's selling, put them in touch. We'll do what we can to promote it tonight. If you are in the market for a used EV, or you know one who is, let us know as well. There's still some deals out there. I am Rosco. It's been a fantastic night. We'll let you out on a bit of a cruise around our market, Amazing EV. Thanks, Riz, for joining us tonight. It's been a fun night, and look, hopefully get him back after China. Have a good time, Stan. Everyone else going to China. Joe's going to China in a couple of months' time. I think everybody's going to China for the EV show. It's going to be fantastic. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday night. I'm Rosco. We'll see you soon.